Dear future Eugene, if you're reading this, you're making your movie reviews. And if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to go a little further. You remember the name of the movie, don't you? The Shawshank Redemption. I could see a review video of that, and you'd be the man to help me get that project on wheels. Or in this case, on camera. I'll keep an eye out for you and the notes ready. Remember, future Eugene, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies. I will be hoping that this letter finds you, and finds you well. Your friend, Eugene from earlier this afternoon. P.S. Apologies for eating all that chicken Alfredo for lunch. You'll find out about it, if you haven't yet, in 3, 2... Oh, sorry. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Eugene Reviews. I am Eugene, and today we are going to be reviewing the acclaimed 1990s prison set drama known as Stephen King's The Shawshank Redemption. Now, a movie of this magnitude I actually have not seen fully from beginning to end until yesterday. My friend has the movie on digital, and I was fortunate enough to get a hold of it and took my entire Sunday evening watching that movie, and boy was I glad that I saw that. And now I know what all the fuss has been for the past 20, near 30 years. But that's my short little history in regards to my viewings of that movie, of my knowing of the movie. So let's go ahead and go right into the 3 acts for The Shawshank Redemption. Act 1, Development. The Shawshank Redemption, Take 1. So the original bring-uppance of the development for The Shawshank Redemption started around the 1980s. I want to say 1987. That's when Frank Darabont, I'll get to who that is in a bit, bought the rights to this story from Stephen King. Now, a couple names to point out here. Of course, Stephen King, we know, one of the most acclaimed novelists in modern literature, world literature, all throughout history. A couple of his works you'll hear about are like The Shining, The Stand, It, various stories all throughout history, all throughout literature that you can find online or at the library that you can discover for yourself. Really known for its terrors and, uneasiness and chills and thrills and psychological narratives that take place in all of his novels. And then on the other hand, we have Frank Darabont. Now, Frank Darabont is an acclaimed director who directed movies such as The Green Mile, starring Tom Hanks and Michael Clarke Duncan, and of course, The Mist. And those who watch television, you remember Frank Darabont more clearly as he was a part of the AMC show The Walking Dead. Now, Darabont has been known for adapting various amounts of Stephen King's novels, but this one, Shawshank Redemption, happens to be his most notable one. Darabont was inspired by films such as It's a Wonderful Life and other films that he envisioned that were tall tale visions, tall tale films, as well as Goodfellas, especially with the narration. As far as the casting for this film, we do know that Tim Robbins was casted as Andy Dufresne and Morgan Freeman was casted as Red. But originally, the casting was intended to be for Tom Cruise to play Andy Dufresne and Harrison Ford to play Red. Now, that would have been pretty innovative as is, but even despite that, this film already has a stellar duo in Robbins and Freeman. And then you can see the film dedicated to a certain somebody that actually happens to be Frank Darabont's agent. So somewhat notable things to kind of look at when it comes to developing The Shawshank Redemption. Darabont, who's been known to adapt a bunch of Stephen King's work, this is his first piece of Stephen King work that he adapts. Inspirations from films like It's a Wonderful Life and Goodfellas. The original casting intended to be for Tom Cruise and Harrison Ford. And then finally, the dedication of the film to Frank Darabont's agent. All right, now that we've got the short, simple, sweet little tidbits of the development out of the way, let's go ahead and go into the brunt of it, which is the execution. Act 2, Execution, The Shawshank Redemption, Take 1. Now remember I mentioned a lot of Stephen King adapted works focus a lot on very terrifying and chilling visuals, psychologically and physically. With Shawshank Redemption, though, it's a little bit of a different twist. It is a bit suspenseful, but it's kind of a very grounded, very realistic, and very kind of true to life type of peril. It revolves around the story being in this prison known as Shawshank up in the New England area. And from this, you see really kind of the process of characters and individuals, inmates, being institutionalized, and how really the confines of that place really establish you to a point that even after you leave it, you can never be the same. You're always a part of that system in Shawshank. But for once, it was actually nice to see a piece of Stephen King work that adapts something that I feel like instills a bit of hope, some aspiration, and something to kind of latch on to. And I think that Darabont and company did a great job in kind of portraying that. I think they did a great job in really making us feel hopeful throughout, especially in the second half of the film. Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman really gelled together in this film. There's a timidness, but yet there's kind of a glimmer of gold in Tim Robbins' character, Andy Dufresne. The way he walks, the way he talks, there's a bit of a shyness to it, but you know how confident he is with his actions. He almost presents himself as a messiah type of character. I don't know if that's just me, but like there's a sense of him being this savior, especially with the narration by Morgan Freeman's character, Red, that kind of builds him up to be this godlike character. I don't know if that's just me. As I mentioned, Red is, you know, kind of the messenger, kind of trustworthy, loyal, sidekick, supporting role in this film that you feel for as he helps out or understands and picks apart Andy Dufresne. But then through his narrations, you get not only a glimmer of what Andy Dufresne is, but you get an understanding of what a kind of character Red is. I do enjoy the camaraderie, not only between Andy and Red, but the other cellmates among their group, as well as the other inmates along with it, as well as the higher ups, like the ruthless, hell hath no fury type of wardens and guards that are employed in Shawshank. And then, of course, the great revelations at the end when Andy escapes from prison. I think that entire sequence in itself was a very classical scene, not just for the entire film, but entire cinema as a whole. Seeing how he was able to get the tools he needed and his intents, and how he was able to hide these things, and how he was able to trick the system. It was all a satisfying, you know, piece of drama and piece of film to behold as it unfolded throughout the entire near 2.5 hours of this film. It's a classical and memorable moment in film history, and something that still holds up to this day, especially that iconic scene where you see a innocent Andy Dufresne hoisting his hands in the air in freedom as he piled through that tub of shit, you know, in the sewers, and finally tastes freedom, you know, despite what literally the obstacles he had to go through, the shit, no pun intended, he had to go through just to escape and feel that freedom in the air. That scene, that moment, all iconic, all memorable, still holding up today in cinema. The narrations are a nice touch. I think that was also why Darabont was inspired by Goodfellas, because there was that narration from Ray Liotta's character. There's narration from Morgan Freeman's Red, and it accents well with it. It plays well with this entire film, and it moves gradually along and makes you feel like, you know, there's a good amount of pacing. It doesn't feel like there's a dull moment when that narration is there. It makes you feel like there's something important to be had. But overall, you know, top-notch, great, that's something that instills hope, that is inspirational and very, very, you know, divine in its nature. I think that the performances that both Robbins, both Freeman, and the rest of the cast put was stellar. I do enjoy the camaraderie and the chemistry and the banter that was shared amongst those castmates. The revelation, especially in the last sequence with Andy Dufresne tasting freedom, was very memorable and very innovative for film at that time as well as today. And then a nice touch of the narration to really kind of keep the pacing going along and not making us feel like there's a dull moment to be had in this movie. You really wanted to pay attention not just to what was going on in the film, but what Morgan Freeman was saying in his narration. All right, we've covered that. Let's go ahead and hit the third act, which is the response. Act 3, response. The Shawshank Redemption, take 1. As really a cause and effect of how great this film was, you can see it easily from the amount of accolades that it was nominated for and won in 1993-94 when it came out. The film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. However, it failed to win Best Picture on such a stacked year of great films. But it is noteworthy to say that on the inaugural Screen Actors Guild Awards ceremony, both Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman won respective awards for their performances in this movie. To this day, Stephen King has gone on record saying that The Shawshank Redemption is his favorite adapted work on screen. As I mentioned, Darabont went on to direct 2 more adaptations of Stephen King, which were The Green Mile, which is another award-winning Stephen King adaptation, as well as The Mist, a film that didn't get any awards or nominations, but is pretty noteworthy when it comes to a big twist in its film. I'm not going to mention that. You'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen the movie. And because of its cultural impact, a lot of the fans of the work of this film decided to go and kind of scout out these places that they shot at. If I'm not mistaken, the Shawshank prison is an actual prison, but then turned into an attraction that people can tour and take a look at. The tree that was next to that rock wall happened to be an attraction as well. I don't know if they necessarily made that into an official attraction, but people have made their way to that general direction to see that tree, to see that location. Obviously, during the scene where Red finds the money and the letter from Andy taking him to Mexico. And then I believe the spot in Mexico too is also an attraction. I mean, it's an attraction in general for tourists, but it's also an attraction because of the film. So there's a lot of cultural impact to be seen just in the amount of the attraction that people want to kind of take a look at, from the prison to the tree to the beach in Mexico, all that because of Shawshank. And then of course, not to mention the accolades that they were nominated for with the Academy Awards, the inaugural Screen Actor Guild Awards, which both Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman both won. Stephen King really praising this to this day as his favorite adaptation. Darabont going about to do 2 more Stephen King adaptations, and then, like I mentioned, the whole sets and locations being viewed as tourist attractions for fans of the film. So a lot to be seen in regards to its legacy, in regards to its impact on pop culture, in regards to really the impression it left behind, not only that year, not only that decade, but for film as a whole. All right, we've gone through all 3 acts. Let me go ahead and go quickly into the verdict for The Shawshank Redemption. Shawshank Redemption is a very classical and wonderful film. I think for me, I actually ended up liking it more than I anticipated to. I've heard so much about it over the years. It's been out for nearly 30 years. You know, to really kind of hear about it, the word of mouth, after so many years from so many people, including friends of my age range, that are saying you should see Shawshank, it really is wonderful that the film like that really kind of touched a lot of people to this day, and touched people, you know, in different generations. I mean, you've got younger audiences watching Shawshank Redemption, you know, from this day and age. Because I think it's unlike any of Stephen King's other works where there's a lot of peril, there's a lot of terror, and there's a lot of suspense to be had. This one is a real hopeful narrative. It's a real hopeful and very definitive kind of inspirational type of film. And I think the combination from Frank Darabont and Stephen King really kind of made this thing gel really well, made this concoction a little bit more appeasing. And I think that overall, it just makes the film much more grander, from performances, from the actual locations and set pieces put forth, because obviously you see a lot of people to this day going to those locations as an attraction site because of the movie. The narratives that were taking place, the characters that you invested in fully, and then of course, you know, feeling these characters' struggles, especially Andy after he escapes the prison, and really having that moment of clarity and that moment of freedom where he's out of the prison and free. A lot of great things that make this film such a memorable piece of film history, such a benchmark for film history, such a bar that was raised not only in the 90s but for future films, and it pays off very well. I mean, I find myself, you know, after 25, near 30 years of this film being released, I find myself being fascinated watching it for the first time ever, fully, beginning to end, on a year such as 2020. So kudos to Darabont, kudos to King, kudos to Robbins, Freeman, and everybody involved in this film for making something that's so instilling of hope and clarity and revelation, and something that I'll probably want to rewatch again and again and again, because it's that entertaining, it's that dramatic, it's that enjoyable, and it's that innovative. So I'll go ahead and give The Shawshank Redemption a 9.6 out of 10. So there you have it. There goes my take on The Shawshank Redemption. I can't believe it's taken me this long to finally fully see this film. I'm very happy that I got to do this. I'm very happy I'm getting a chance to actually watch a bunch of these films that I've never seen before, that people are raving about for so long. You know, it really kind of gives me that eagerness and really brings a jittery nature in me to watch these films as if I was a kid. Thank you guys for tuning in. What's your impression on The Shawshank Redemption? Did you love it as much as I did? Did you not like it? Did you prefer any other Stephen King adaptations over this? If so, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know if there's other Stephen King works that have film or don't have film that you either feel like should be a film or that you would like for me to check out. Any and all comments are welcome. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, get the word out. Follow me on Instagram at Eugene Reviews. You'll see all of my posts on there, as well as my picks for the month, both television and film. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. I really hope you guys are enjoying watching these as much as I'm enjoying making these for you. And I look forward to the next few months of material, as I've got things planned out that I can't wait to kind of put out on YouTube and put out for all of y'all to kind of see and, you know, get my thoughts on. And yeah, it's gonna be something to look forward to. Unless you saw my post a few weeks ago, I'm not going to say again which ones that I'm going to cover for the remaining weeks, but I will say, with a couple events coming up, such as Halloween and you know, the presidential election, I will be doing things that are themed into those, you know, certain events in that regards. So be on the lookout for that in the next few weeks and few months. And until then, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out my other videos and my other quick takes too. I have a couple quick takes on films such as Mulan, the Disney Plus version, Tenet, as well as the New Mutants. Until then, this has been another episode of Eugene Reviews. I am Eugene, and this is me signing off, and I will see you guys next time for another episode. And that is a wrap. This is how bored I get. I write letters to myself. It literally says, "Dear future Eugene," and your friend Eugene from earlier this afternoon.